Morning, people. Let's get right in with the first one by Marc Clement. Okay, overall it's an okay mix. I like the drum mix actually. The guitars though need a bit more distortion and they need to come up in volume somewhat. And I suspect when you do that, the kick will also need to come up a little bit, or at least the top range click. Yeah, and after you work on the rhythm guitars, I'm sure the solo will also need a little bit less reverb and also need to go up in volume a little bit because they might end up being too far in the back of the mix. But otherwise, it sounds pretty solid to my ears. Perhaps the bass guitar could also use a bit of a dip in the lower mid-range. But it's nothing crazy really. At this point, it still works. But again, when you start working on the rhythm guitars a bit more, it could be the bass guitar would also need a bit of that dip, because the rhythm guitars will take up more of that space themselves. Next one is by David Matthews. This is overall also a good mix, but it needs one or the other tweak. For example, the vocals sound very heavily compressed. They have a bit too much punch and spit when the vocal line just starts out, to the point that it's a bit distracting. So you may want to ease up on that vocal compressor. And they could also benefit from a bit of de-essing. And also the bass has a lot of that mid-range going on again. It's not really muddy mid-range, it's more of the good gnarly mid-range around, I don't know, 600 to 1K, that kind of area. But it's a bit strong, it pops out too much. It doesn't really melt into the song. I mean, the bass sounds great. Of course, don't get me wrong. It's just the volume balance of that mid range. It feels like a bit disconnected to the rest of the mix. And solo needs to come up in volume. Otherwise, this is a pretty solid mix, I'd say. Next one is by Simon Berard. Berard or Berard? No, more like Berard. Okay, right off the bat, the kick and the snare are too loud. It makes it all sound kind of rough around the edges, like the mix as a whole still needs quite some work. But we'll get to that. Perhaps it's really just the volume balance of these two that need to come down, and you are already good. I noticed the overheads are pumping and wobbling on volume quite a bit. I'm not sure how that would happen. Perhaps it's compressor on the drum bus that's going a little bit out of hand. I gotta listen to this some more. Okay, you notice it whenever the kick hits, the overheads get completely ducked down in volume and then kind of fade up again. It's very inconsistent. Whatever it is you did there with the compressor, you may want to change that. And I suspect when you take out that compressor that's causing that, the volume balance of the cymbals might actually be at a good place, and the whole drums might be at a good place, but then everything else would need to come up, like the guitars and the bass. Yeah, the guitars need to come up in volume also. With that, with the drums being as they are, it's again hard to make clear judgments on the rest of the mix. Because once you fix the drums, I don't know how the mix as a whole is going to behave at that point. Yeah, that's about everything I can say for this mix at this point. Next one is by Emiliyan Arnaudov. That sounds so like 90s hip hop. It's really cool, but we will see if that fits to the rest of the song. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I want to say it's definitely a cool idea, and I do want to say it works. It works because it sets you up for one thing, and then it throws you for a loop and throws you right into that really hard part right there. It's kind of an interesting progression in that intro. Also, the mix as a whole sounds really good. Perhaps just some fine tweaks here. Guitars can come down a little bit, vocals can come up a little bit. Overall, it's a great mix. Again, just the more of the detailed points about the rhythm guitars, they could benefit from a bit more clarity in their distortion character. It's definitely a solid tone that you dialed in, but right here in this big part, it feels like they take up too much space, like there's too much distortion going on, and in that 1 to 3K area, I noticed there's a little bit too much, and you kind of want to have a bit more of a defined, clear, open mid-range in the rhythm guitars, at least for this kind of style of music. Having a lot of distortion and bite and edge in there can be a bit problematic for this style of music, but it still works. Okay, don't get me wrong, this is a great mix. This is just another fine tweak that you could think about. And I suspect it really depends on what kind of amp sim you use and also impulse response. So yeah, but I'd say this is another stronger contestant right here. Next one is by Bastian Z. Overall, this is a pretty solid mix again. Just the kick drum could use a bit more of a high-end click, so it cuts through a bit more consistently. Some hits get a little bit lost. And also the snare a little bit more top range crack, so it punches through just a little bit better. And the guitars could use a bit more distortion. Perhaps the guitars could also come down in volume a little bit. But I like the general style of the drum mix. It doesn't sound so overcompressed, it sounds very natural. Just a few minor tweaks, and it's perfect. Yeah, here you notice the solo needs more distortion as well. So these, in general, solos or lead guitars need more distortion than the rhythm guitars, because the volume of these higher notes is just so much lower compared to rhythm guitars, where the lower strings move a lot. So in order to compensate for that, you need more distortion. Next one is by Goh Chin Herng. What gives? There's no processing going on in here. Okay. I mean, yeah, it is a mixing contest, and usually mixing does not really entail that you have to dial in tones. That's more a part of production and recording. But these are obviously DI tracks, and in a rock song you can't just leave the DI tracks hanging there. I mean, they need some amp tone, and this contest is about winning amp simulations. That's why I gave you the DI tracks, because I want to see how good you can dial in tones. And here you didn't do any of that. So yeah. Next one's by Myst Deisanto. Another very solid mix here. good one. It's a good one. Definitely another stronger contender. Oh my goodness, there are too many strong contenders right here already. Next one's by Thibault Triat? Or is it Thibault? Thanks for making it hard for me again. Okay, for whatever reason, the vocals are super muffled, like you rolled off a lot of the high end. And you could work on the volume balance between the guitar tracks a little bit. At times the main rhythm guitar tracks are a little bit quiet, and the secondary guitar tracks are a little bit too up in volume. Too up in volume. I hope you got what I mean. Okay, the solo is a little bit too loud here. Yeah, the drum mix sounded a bit on the rougher side, but it works. I wouldn't say that it needs more processing. It could perhaps benefit from some more processing. But definitely the vocals. I don't know what happened there, or if that was intentional that you cut off the whole top range. I would recommend you don't do that. Just keep them open and clear. And really the only thing these vocals might need is some de-essing. Next one is by Dmitry Lyakh. Overall, this is a solid mix. I think the vocals could use a bit more girth and oomph in the lower range, so they have a bit more of a richer, chestier feel. Overall, this is also a very solid mix, I'd say. And last one for today, if I didn't mess up, is by Stijn Bos, or Bos. Thank you for letting me know how to pronounce your name, otherwise I would have butchered that as well. Overall, this is also a good mix, but I feel the guitars could benefit from perhaps a little bit less distortion, a bit more mid-range focus, less of a top-range focus, because they tend to stand above the vocals a little bit because of that upper range boost. And the vocals could come up in volume a little bit as well. I think with the guitars it's really just kind of a fizzy frequency in the upper range. It's somewhere in the 5 to 6K area, or 5 to 7K area. There's something fizzy going on. I suspect if you would dip that down, perhaps with a surgical EQ, just find that frequency and then dip it down, and you'd already be good to go. How did I get here? I will not Yeah, overall, it's definitely a solid mix. That much is true. Okay, and now another 10 mixes down. Woohoo! Just 60 more to go. And then, as you can probably tell, I'm getting kind of tired right now. I think I'm gonna lay down for a little bit before I start editing this video. Then you have a good day, and I shall see you next time.